So it's a report from the C40's Climate Leadership Group, which is a globalist climate organization that is made up of nearly 100 cities around the world. 14 of those cities are American, and they have a goal, they call it an ambitious target of by the year 2030, no meat consumption, no dairy consumption, no private vehicle ownership, limits on air travel and clothing consumption. So really radical changes to American life. And ironically, they're denying their goals, yet explicitly stating them in this report. And it's also that they want to limit the global heating of the earth, right? So they say that in order to make sure that it doesn't surpass 1.5 degrees Celsius in global warming, then we should have these really radical goals, which will somehow mitigate that threat. First, I wrote an article about this in the Federalist. Then I made an Instagram reel sort of summarizing the goals of C40 Climate Leadership Group. And Instagram slapped a PolitiFact fact check on my Instagram reel. But what's really interesting about the fact check is the fact check addresses a completely separate Instagram user and a completely separate article. So they wanted to fact check me, right? They didn't like that I was telling everybody, sounding the alarm bells that, hey, these 14 American cities have really radical goals for 2030. They didn't want people to know that, so they fact checked other people to then slap a fact check on me without actually addressing my reporting, which was 100% accurate. Does your city have a goal of banning meat by 2030? 14 major American cities are part of a globalist climate organization known as the C40 Climate Leadership Group, which has an ambitious target by the year 2030 of 0 kilograms of meat consumption, 0 kilograms of dairy consumption, 3 new clothing items per year per person, and 0 private vehicles. Nearly 100 cities across the world make up C40, and its American members include Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. Ultimately, the Climate Coalition's goals are inherently anti-human. Banning meat and dairy, restricting calories, and impoverishing the masses will hurt the planet and people. More likely than not, it will do more than hurt people. It will kill
14
people.
Global cities are committed to the C40 Good Food Cities Declaration, pledging to work with their citizens to achieve a planetary health diet for all by 2030. The Planetary Health Diet, as conceived of by our partners, the EAT Foundation and the Eat Lancet Commission, is consistent with many traditional eating patterns. You can think of it as generally represented by a half a plate of fruits and vegetables and nuts, and another half a plate with primarily whole grains, plant proteins, and optionally modest amounts of meat and dairy.
They want to push a radical climate agenda without actually having to get the consent of the people. If they can get these left-wing cities to sign on to them without actually passing any laws, without actually informing people, then they can push this agenda in a much more seamless way. And that actually is the stated purpose of C40, to push the climate agenda without having to deal with the rest of us. And I think that a huge reason why I was censored is not just that I was telling people that this is happening, but also that in my article, I told people the purpose of this, which is not the climate. If it was really about the climate and they really cared about CO2 emissions, they would be interested in nuclear energy, right? And they're not. This is all about social control, just like COVID was all about social control. And it was a test run, right? The COVID lockdowns were a test run for climate lockdowns. Klaus Schwab has said this. It's called the Great Reset. And that is why I pointed that out in my article. That is why they were angry at me, and I think that is why I was fact-checked. And it's extremely dishonest, and that's what the fact-checkers do, right? They shut down opposition media, and that's why so many media outlets like PolitiFact, like CNN, like MSNBC go along with the censorship, because they actually end up being the benefactors of it. It's Michael Bloomberg run. They all are sort of part of this climate globalist organization, and this is not necessarily a law, right? And this is sort of the word games that they were playing with me in their fact check, right? It's not a law-binding treaty that they signed. All they're saying is, this is what we want to do by 2030. This is our goal. That's what I said in my video. That's what I said in my article. And that's why I didn't deserve a fact check, because I stated exactly what they said, that this is their goal by 2030. Not necessarily a law, although what's important to know is there are laws that are already moving toward the C40 goals, which is why it's really unbelievable that they would try to claim that while it's an ambitious target, it's really sort of unserious. In New York City, Eric Adams has banned meat and dairy in prisons and in public schools. In France, they have limits on short-haul flights. In the UK, they banned the sale of of gas-powered vehicles by 2030. So we're already seeing these goals come into fruition across the globe, and specifically in C40 cities. And so to say that these goals are somehow not real, are insincere, is not backed up by their own words and is not backed up by their actions. I think it's the powers that be, right, that are striking back, the censorship complex that's striking back. I think a lot of young people care about the environment. I'm someone who cares about the environment. I grew up in the North Woods of Wisconsin. I love clean air. I love fresh water. I think we all can agree on that. It's actually it's really, I think, such a betrayal to people who genuinely care about the environment to see that their movement has been co-opted by these globalist powers who have really evil, really horrible aims. And I think that a lot of young people that follow me, that watched my video, read my article, have said thank you for exposing this, because they don't want to see the climate change or environmental movement be used by these people. I also think what's important to know about Gen Zers is they are a generation, we are a generation that has been censored from the very beginning, right? I mean, we are being conditioned since COVID to not say what we think. Otherwise, you'll face punishment, right? You'll not get an internship. You're not going to get a job in the future. You'll face social ostracization. That's the point of putting that fact check on me, to shame me. And I think a lot of young people recognize that too. They see that in their day-to-day lives at school and college, in the workplace, and identify with that struggle and are angry at the censorship police.